Ironically enough, one of the things that actually holds you back is trying to improve. Isn't that funny? So, when you actually try to do any form of self improvement, or when you actually try to like level up in a video game, level up in life, make more money, etc., what you'll usually find is you will tend to like make progress, and then you'll kind of always hit like this firewall or a bottleneck of some sort, right? And in this video, we're going to talk about the firewalls, the bottlenecks, why actually most people don't start at all because they know they're going to hit that success barrier, if you will. It's basically what this video is about is why is it that humans and us as guys, when it comes to like in the dating world, why we always seem to take one step forward, hit a wall, then we kind of have to take one step back again to take two steps forward again later. And the greatest analogy of this, if you want to look at the screen, the midwit meme, right? It's hilarious because like the midwit meme, this meme here, is everything. It depicts everything in life. It basically, for example, the guy at the left over here, like the derpy, like the midwit, right? If you want to think about it, that's the guy that's like, he goes up to 1,000 women, and he's like, I like your shoes or I like your legs. Like he's so inconceivably stupid that he actually doesn't have self-awareness of like, he doesn't have any emotional empathy. He has no self-awareness, but he just approaches like thousands of chicks per day. He's gonna get some damn good results, isn't he? Right? And then, for those of us that start off as a midwit, we learn about, self-improvement content, dating content and stuff. We learn about the game and how the game works. The structure of clubbing, self-amusement. We learn all, bro, the information overload is totally out of control, right? What ends up happening, by the way, if you like this content, scroll down and hit the subscribe button, where you will only get this type of information from yours truly, your resident guy on a treadmill that likes to talk about this shit. Hit the subscribe button. So, then what happens is those of us that are like, okay, yeah, approaching thousands of women is great and all, and I do get results. But then something in your brain is like, it's almost like an efficiency thing. You're like, this doesn't seem that efficient, does it? Just to approach 1,000 women. Let me do some research on how this actually works, right? And then, hell, you go towards the guy in the middle here. Can I zoom in on this? Yeah, there we go. You slowly climb towards this middle guy in the middle here. What this is like, man, what was the first thing I learned in game? I don't even remember now. It's like, let's start with maybe pickup lines back in the day. Like, hey, if you, man, I don't even remember any of these. You start off with like, are you an angel because you fell from heaven and landed on my lap? I don't remember that one. So stupid, dude. I actually never did pickup lines, fair enough, because I never, the most common one was the argument opener, right? Like, hey, did you see the guys fighting outside? Who would win, the shorter guy or the taller guy? And those openers are actually really good because they give you a topic to start talking about, a theoretical topic to talk about with a random woman. And then you learn about frame and stuff, right? Like, which relates to the opener. So if you're like, hey, if you had a choice between Hawaii and Bali, which one would you take, or whatever, something like that. The underlying frame there is you're already friends, and so when you approach the girl, you're assuming the frame that you've already been friends for a few years. And then what that does is that alleviates your anxiety. It makes her feel more comfortable, gets the ball rolling much easier. Anyway, long story short, you start to learn, I guess, are they tactics? I guess they are tactics, right? You start to learn these type of tactics, and then you for those of you that actually test shit, which by the way, none of this is applicable unless you actually test shit, okay? That's like, we'll get into why in a second. But for those of us that actually went out back in the day and tested this shit, what would happen, dude, I'll never forget this shit. What would happen is we would like go out, we would learn a new tactic, we would go out and test it, and then we would kind of get reference experiences of this new tactic. And then we would go back and do more research. We would go back and do more research. We'd go back. And then eventually what would happen is, and I'm speaking from personal experience here. We get to the top of this apex of this like this midwit center point, right? And what I noticed happening was like my results with women were actually getting worse in general, and I couldn't actually figure out why. Even though I was objectively better, my results were getting worse. And it was the overthinking part of it now that I look back. And what that is like we are so overloaded with information on different perspectives and what to do and how this all works, all that kind of shit, right? We're so overloaded with information, man. So then when I would approach a chick at a bar or something like that, I would start to like, it wasn't like a pre-flow chart. That's a beginner mistake. That's a newbie mistake. You don't want to think about what you're going to say before you approach, right? One of the old rules was approach within 5 seconds of entering a venue, right? Doesn't give your brain enough time to actually think of reasons why not to approach. There's lots. That's a tactic right there, isn't it? So anyway, my results were going backwards a little bit. And I'm like, what's going on here? So then what ended up happening was my brain was like flow charting all the things. It's almost like learning how to drive like a manual car. When you're first learning how to drive manual, you have to like think about where the gears go and stuff. So my brain was like flow charting the responses, the counter responses, the adaptations, what are the logistics and who are they with? And like it was like quantum computing all these things. And then I'm sure what I didn't realize, what from the female's perspective, is this guy isn't just vibing with me. So think about that in terms of the midwit part of it, right? What this idiot at the left here, the midwit, the 0.1%, when he's like, you have a nice shirt, and he's just like an idiot, that's so much more genuine to the actual woman in terms of like, he's just an idiot and he has no ulterior motives. He's not learning self-improvement. He's not doing any of that shit, right? So it's so funny because like, dude, every single guy has this epiphany if they start going, every single guy does. And you can relate this to a video game analogy as well, which I'll explain in a second here. The guy on the left, he's just so much more genuine. And he's what you would call like a natural, where he's not overthinking. Like all he's thinking about is like, approach pretty girl, say hi to pretty girl. He's not thinking about logistics. He's not thinking about what's the other word? The frame of why they're there, like a birthday party, bachelorette party, breakup. He's not there trying to like gather information. He's not there trying to like chameleon his humor to the girl's humor. He's not doing any of that type of shit, right? All he's doing, hi, I think you're pretty. Hi, I think you're cute. Whatever. So then, what happens is the longer you do this, longer, maybe like 3 or 4 years in, this is how long it took me to realize this shit, man. And it's not like I wasn't getting results, they just weren't as good. So then, you kind of start, what happens is really interesting. What happens is you kind of just like get fed up a little bit, and you're like, okay, and it almost spirals into this like information black hole overload where like, I think, you know what, maybe topic for another video, but I think this is like the psyop of self-improvement a little bit, where like self-improvement, like the content itself doesn't really have an end. Like, how do you know when you're self-improved? Like, how do you know when it's over? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? So like, what happened to me when I went through all this stuff, I was like learning, results getting worse. And then I'm like, well, I must be doing something wrong. Learn more information. Results getting worse and worse, dude. And I'm like, what the fuck, right? I'm like, what is this? What? I'm like, what's the point? I'm like, and then it clicked into me a while after. I'm like, I had none of these problems until I started learning about all this dumb shit. I'm like, I don't care. I'm done with all this, right? And then I stopped watching all dating content back in the day. I'm like, I'm done with all this shit. I don't care. I'm not doing any logistics. I'm not doing any information gathering. I ain't doing fuck all. All I'm gonna do is just say hi to people and get to know them. That's literally it. I'm like, I'm just gonna say hi and see what the girl's about. What do you think happened? What do you know? Right? And then you're like, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, but here, hey, we're gonna, that doesn't, okay, here's the key point here. A lot of guys will take what I'm saying as not to try and learn. That's not what I'm saying. That's a big no-no. This is not an excuse not to start, okay? I'll explain why. The reason is because when I actually gave up on the whole information gathering thing, what that is I'm taking one step back. And then I ended up taking 2 steps forward. So what it was more like an epiphany rather than an information or a tactical upgrade. What it was now that my brain had unlocked to this, like, I don't give a shit anymore mode. I'm just gonna go have fun and say hi to people mode. That doesn't mean that all that information that I gathered in the middle of this midwit area, my brain remembered. And just like driving that manual car, like the six speed or whatever, now all of a sudden what was happening was that my brain was shifting gears without me thinking about it. Let me give you an example. This is the craziest shit about all this, dude. And I swear to God, every guy has the same epiphanies, right? What was happening, for example, before I was in the left side of this bell curve here, this left side, what I would try to do was I would be like, hey, who are you here with? and what brings you to the venue kind of thing, right? And the reason why I was doing that before was to gather the information, right? Because you need to know, you need to vet your prospects, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of like what they teach you in the early days of game. You gotta vet your prospects, right? What ended up happening was at the right side of this bell curve over here, those topics of conversation would just come up naturally. And then instead of me trying to like gather the information, my brain was logging the information. So on the right side of this bell curve here, I would start just talking and vibing and all that stuff. And then like, one of their friends would come over and say like, oh, hey, how's it going or whatever. And then you'd be like, oh, hey, are you friends with this person? How do you guys know each other? What brings you to the venue, right? And what you're doing is you're vibing with them while simultaneously logging the data. And it comes off as very natural. Do you know what I'm saying? And then, dude, this was the most mind-blowing shit. And then, so when I would ask the person, like, hey, what brings you to the venue? I was asking them from a place of genuine curiosity. Like, hey, what does bring you here kind of thing, right? Like, instead of me collecting the data, it was genuine curiosity to get to know the person while my brain was doing the manual stick shift logging thing. Now, it's so, dude, this shit is so fascinating, dude. So then what ends up happening is like, if I never went through this middle phase of like information overloading and testing and like, oh my God, this is just won't stop, dude. And I'm just like, my results are getting worse. Then you just like, it's kind of like Vegeta in Super Saiyan, you know what I'm saying? When like Vegeta keeps training in like 100 times gravity mode and all that shit, and he just can't achieve Super Saiyan for some reason. And then he's about to die and he like gives up, and then he turns into a Super Saiyan, right? But that all that training he did at 100 times gravity didn't get him to where he wanted, but the body remembered the training for when he took one step back to take 2 steps forward. You know what I'm saying? Dude, this is the most fascinating shit about human development. If you want a video game analogy, let's say you're playing Valorant, or you're playing Overwatch, or Apex Legends, or you're playing a competitive shooter. And when you first start off, you start off as bronze or silver or whatever, and you tried a bunch of different characters, and you find one character that you really jive with. For me in Overwatch, it was Reaper, right? So what you do is you start one-tricking that one hero. You just pick the same hero over and over and over. That gets you all the way up to diamond. Or even platinum, something like that. That gets you all the way up. You hit a wall. Because now all of a sudden people are counterpicking you. And now all of a sudden what got you to where you were now is no longer applicable to get you farther than where you wanted to go. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've experienced shit like this in your life, right? So what do you have to do? You have to take the ego hit. And this is exactly where 99% of people fail with literally everything. It's this ability to self-gauge why you've hit the bottleneck or the wall and take a step back. Sometimes people do it by accident. Sometimes you do it on purpose, right? When it comes to video games, that was always very purposeful for me. So like, let's say, if I get to diamond with a certain hero, I'm more aware of it now, right? But let's say I one trick all the way to diamond with one hero. I get hard stuck now. Ah, shit, now what do I do? I have to give up that hero. All those hours that I spent investing into that hero, I gotta give it all up. And I gotta go back all the way to gold and silver and learn a whole bunch of new heroes now. And then what happens is you actually get back to diamond with those other heroes. And now, but the experiences that you've had with the first hero don't go away. Now that hero that you're a pro with, he's your counter pick against other people. Now he's a weapon, that hero is a weapon in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? So, all this shit, it's kind of like if you want to start a business, it's kind of the same thing, right? Everything in life is the same. This is the crazy shit. Everything in life is this midwit meme, man. And here's the thing. Again, do not use this as an excuse, because here's the thing. If you stay down here, if you stay at the left side of the bell curve and you don't actually, this is kind of like the paradox of the entire self-improvement industry. The whole paradox is, you notice that the people on the left side of the bell curve here, they're just like normal people that never looked into self-development. And then here's probably the last example I'll give you of something like this, right? You start off at the bodybuilding is such a good one, dude. Bodybuilding is probably one of the best ones. You start off at the left side, not knowing about macros, not knowing about calories, eating whatever the hell you want, socializing with your friends, drinking alcohol. You're on the left. Yet get in the middle of this bell curve. You're tracking every gram of rice, all your macros, all your calories, daily weigh-ins. You're tracking how much water you drink, your sets, your reps. Your life gets consumed by bodybuilding. You cut off all your friends. You think your friends are losers. They're not bringing Tupperware to the restaurant. They're not tracking their calories. All this crazy shit, right? You're so stingent on your nutrition and everything. And then you come out the other end. And you're like, none of that shit was that serious. And now you start eating out with your friends again. Now you don't really give a shit. Once you realize it's not that serious. But all the skills that you learned in the middle of the midwit, you can now eyeball how many calories are on your plate. Now you can eyeball how much protein is on there. Now you can actually go out with your friends, order good food, adjust your calories in your brain, driving your manual car. Your brain is, instead of your brain actively doing the thing, it is passively logging the data because of all the fucking around that you did. So when you come out, and then what happens when you come out the other end of that is now all your friends are like, wow, your metabolism is so high. How do you stay so fit without watching your calories? How are you doing this? It seems like you're a wizard to people, but they never saw the middle part of it. And you never would have gotten to the other end of it's not that serious unless you actually went through the middle part of it. Do you know what I'm saying here? And you can literally apply this to literally everything. And you know what the shitty thing is about this whole thing? I don't think there is a way around it. I think the only thing that a lot of people get trapped in the middle, though. That's the problem, right? They never seem to get out the other end if it's not that serious. Same with women, dating, video games, bodybuilding, business. You're a nobody, and then you go down the rabbit hole of obsession, YouTube analytics, click-through rate, fucking viewer retention, ad placement, thumbnails, titles, A/B testing. And then you're at the other end of that, you're like, fuck all this shit. I'm just gonna make funny ass videos. I'm just gonna post what I want. I'm just done with all this. And what do you know? All the information that all the stuff that you did to learn the skill is now being passively logged by your brain. And now you come out the other end a god. A god of it's not that serious, while also having the knowledge of the middle mitwit. And again, I don't know how to, I don't think there is a way to bypass this. Unfortunately, the only thing that separates the 1% of guys or the 1% of humans from the other 99 is knowing when to take that one step back. And like not give up, but you have to know, instead of being Vegeta and giving up and then becoming Super Saiyan, it's almost like an active decision. It's like, okay, I've done enough research and I've tested enough things now. I think I have a good grasp on this. I think I'm gonna come out the other end and save my energy and go into it's not that serious mode. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that is here's the thing, you get better at that the more you go through this cycle. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, right now, I am so efficient at this cycle that when I start a new skill, dodgeball was the same way, sports, when I start a new skill, I almost like go into obsession mode. Right now I'm doing finances, dude. If you wanna know another financing one, you're an idiot with finances and like investing and stock trading. You do all this research about like, this is the last cycle that I was in, right? You do all this research about which investments, dividends, stock options, trades, puts, shorting, covered calls. You're like, oh my God, dude, this is insane, right? There's too much information here to trade all this trading. You come out the other end and you're like S&P 500 and chill. I just don't care. But again, you have to go through that middle part again, dude. It doesn't matter what you do. It's always like this, okay? Now, this last cycle that I was in with the financing stuff, it only took me 1 year. I was investing. I made a shit ton of mistakes, learned a shit ton of stuff. Now I'm out the other end. I'm like, I don't even look at my damn stocks anymore, man. I just buy ETFs and I just leave it the fuck alone. I don't even care anymore, right? It's just not that serious. And that is the cycle of life, I guess I want to say, right? You got to take one step back to eventually take 2 steps forward. And this midwit meme will basically govern your entire life. And you have to do it. You have to do it. You can't skip it. You can't go from left to right. You have to go up and you have to cry yourself to bed with the information overload. And hopefully this channel can actually help you shorten. You can't bypass it, but hopefully this channel, if you watch my content, I can help you shorten the midwit cycle. Because if you can, instead of like 3 or 4 years, you can condense that down to 1 year. Now all of a sudden you're making much more progress than everybody else, much more rapidly, right? If you want to make more progress rapidly, scroll down, hit that subscribe button. Hopefully this video taught you something. This was kind of a rant, but like, this shit is so real, dude. It's so real. Hopefully we can get past this midwit cycle together. Scroll down, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.